Good evening. I'm Enari Darklore and welcome to Churikua. Tonight, in our second compilation from our third season, you will listen to the legends of the Vampires Tree, Black Shuck, Jiangshi, and Monte Cristo Homestead. And remember that the night awaits for you. This story has been passed down in my family for several generations. We are from Guadalajara, Jalisco, although many dismiss the story as mere fantasy or family folklore. The truth is that there is a lot of truth to it. At least, that's how I feel. This story dates back to my great great grandparents. If I recall correctly, their names were Doña Refugio and Don Anatolio in 1880. They lived where the civil hospital stands today. Back then, it was common to have a pet, and in this case, they had a dog whom they loved dearly. People in the neighborhood began finding dead dogs and cats, which started to worry the residents, including Doña Refugio and Don Anatolio. At first, they thought it was some creature roaming at night and killing the animals. Doña Refugio and Don Anatolio's fear was that it would now attack not only animals but also people. That fear came true a couple of weeks later. People began turning up dead, including drunks returning home at night and night workers, and on one occasion, even the night watchman. All of them had 2 holes in their necks and were draining of blood until someone finally dared to suggest it was a vampire. They took advantage of the mass and, with the priest's permission, invited everyone interested in safeguarding and protecting themselves to attend a meeting on the church grounds. A man who was a foreign, Don Rafael, but had put down roots here, spoke up and advised several of those concerned about the nature of this being, since he knew them very well. Once there, he explained in detail that they had to gather on the agreed open day, and they to patrol the streets at night with torches and wooden stakes. What is happening here is that a vampire is robbing us for our peace and security. It has taken our dogs, cats, and even our loved ones. This creature feeds on blood and possesses eternal life, but like all beings, it is vulnerable. It dies when struck in the heart with a wooden stake. I ask that we do this to restore the peace and tranquility that God has given us, and the vampire has stolen from us. With that, Don Anatolio and 5 other men set to work making enough stakes to go hunt it down some days before. Doña Refugio waited at home, protecting the children and the dog with a machete in hand just in case. But the dog sensed danger and ran out of the house. Doña Refugio called out to him, but there was no answer. She could only hear his whimpering in the distance. With her heart in her throat, she had no choice but to go inside and protect her children. When the time of the encounter arrived, they were all gathered together. They organized themselves to patrol the streets, combing through the entire neighborhood until there he was. In the group with Don Anatolio and 3 other men, along with Don Rafael, they caught a man just as he was killing a dog that was somewhat familiar to Don Anatolio, his own dog. It was unsettling to see that the figure, the vampire, was a foreign, handsome, tall, slender, and with an elegant bearing that was hard to forget. But his blood-spattered mouth turned that astonishment into outrage. The men tied him up and beat him. When he was disorientated, Don Rafael dropped the wooden stake into his chest. Once the vampires stopped screaming, they tied him up tightly. Two of the men carried him carefully to a cart, while Don Anatolio picked up his dog and took it home, which was just a few meters from where the confrontation with the vampire had taken place. Doña Refugio hugged him, and they left the dog at home to bury it. That day, all the neighbors who were able to attend the gathering at the Belen cemetery, they had already prepared the grave in which they buried the vampire, bound with a stake through his chest. The grave and tombstones were extremely heavy, as Don Rafael had instructed. Years passed, and they realized that a Camachin's stake had turned into a tree that grew at the foot of the grave. They feared the vampire might escape, but he did not. No one dared to desecrate the grave for fear that the vampire would escape. Some people said that if you cut a piece of the tree, you would see blood instead of sap, the vampire's blood inside it. On his deathbed, Raphael asked that they care for and watch over the tree, because the day it fell would be the day the vampire returned. His words continue to echo to this day. Some curious people went to the tree to cut it down to see if it bled, or with intention of desecrating the grave, so it was decided to fence off the grave to protect everyone. Will I, when my time comes, enjoy peace and tranquility for my loved ones? Or will I be among the unfortunate ones to see the tree fall and witness the consequences of its fall? Only time will tell.
It can be. It can be. What have we done? What have we done? The Black Shuck has attacked us here in Blightbird and in Bungay. Tragedies have occurred all on the same day, heralded by the storm, the kind we've had to weather from time to time. I don't understand what we did wrong. If those poor souls did something wrong, if they worship pagan gods, if they did something to offend him. The priest is investigating that now with the authorities. His prayers have echoed like a desperate cry against the incomprehension and suffering we have endured. God, why have you done this to us? Why? Why have you allowed us to happen? What have they done to offend you? What have they done? Or what have we done? That is so grave that you have allowed the black shark to burst into your dwelling. This August 4th, 1577, in the year of our Lord, will be detached in our minds and in those of our descendants, at least as long as this place is destined to continue existing. We were at Mass, sheltering from the cold and the bad weather, while our prayers were focused on bringing us the calm and joy that were about to change outside. The wind howled, thunder heralded what was about to happen. The black shock prowled the area around the church, and with a mighty sharp, a crash, and in unison with a bolt of lightning, it burst into the church. His massive size, long black fur, and red eyes loomed before us. He ran and pounced on a man and a child, his son, a family. Like so many of us, the father, the priest, prayed. The black shark approached, almost screaming. As he prayed, you could see the fear in the priest's eyes. We screamed, we ran, trying to escape or hide. When it had finished with both of them, it tried to chase after a few more, as if analyzing them, as if seeing something we couldn't. In those brief moments which felt like eternity to us, it came out. But since it couldn't open the doors, it scratched them, and they were given off a burning smell. Once it was gone, it took us a little while to make sure everything was alright, that we were safe, out of danger that night. None of us could fall asleep thinking of the victims. A few days later, we learned that Bungay had suffered the same misfortune and tragedy, along with more victims. We kept asking ourselves why, but we found no answer. Sometimes I think I hear it at night. I'm afraid of lightning. I'm afraid of being the next victim. I can't eat. I can't work the land. I can't sleep. Could I be the next victim? Will the black shark come back for me? Or will he come for other good people as a reminder that he'll keep coming after us until God wills it? All I can do is wait and pray for my soul and my life. I can feel your enthusiasm and admiration. I'll answer your question with a story about how I became a priest, about my discipline and inspiration, and about how a stroke of good fortune came to my way when I was very young, just a boy. Back then, I lived in a village not far from here. My family was humble. We worked the land and sold what our fields produced. My older brother, Liwei, was tall and strong, and he was looking for a way to get ahead. He decided to go to the city and learn the trade of construction. It wasn't very far, just a day's walk. Every so often, he would come to visit us and bring us what he earned, keeping only a small portion for himself. Trade struck soon after. An earthquake hit just
He was working. He didn't manage to get out of the building in time, as some beams he was placing fell on top of him. As soon as we heard the news from a coworker who was also from there, we didn't have the money to go to get his body. So we sought out a priest for our hometown to bring the body back to us and accepted. A few days later, a priest passed by night. Even thought he announced his arrival by ringing a bell. I slipped out joyfully, thinking the priest was coming to take Leeway away. But my surprise was even greater when I saw his pass by. The priests with four animated corpses with parchment talismans on their faces, their stiff bodies moving, their arms raised slightly below shoulders height and jumping, without colliding, without rushing ahead, without lagging behind in step with the priest. I gasped so hard I almost screamed. The wind blew so hard that the talisman on the forehead of two of them flew off. They flew into rage. The corpses turned toward me, coming leaping, in a great hurry, and I was so terrified that before I could scream, priest, with great skill and grace, ran as fast as the wind, stood in front of me, and with a few talismans and prayers took control. I saw him there, with determination on his face, focused, never taking his eye off the corpses he was controlling. His composure, determination, calmness filled me with admiration. So did his speed and agility. He motioned for me to be quiet. He gestured that I should calm down, breathe slowly, and hold my breath, since they couldn't see but could hear. And that was why they were following me. He said goodbye to me and with a bow left. I stood there, frozen, stunned, and as soon as they were a safe distance away, I went inside and acted as if nothing had happened. The next day, the priest we had hired arrived, walking in and waiting at the temple to perform the customary funeral rites. I told my family I needed some advice, and they gave me a few moments alone with him. I told him what had happened that night, and he said, "You were very lucky, young man. That night you encountered the Jiangshi. You might not have come out unscattered. However, the important thing is that you are here, safe and sound." As he told me, the Jiangshi are the dead who refuse to rest in peace. There are many reasons why they wander between the living and the dead, clinging to the former but refusing to belong to the latter. There are various causes for their nature, but all of them are linked to disturbing their rest, failing to respect it, or even an unnatural death. That priest took the Jiangshi who had invaded a village near ours. They had even infected some else along the way, some who became a new Jiangshi, and led them to a temple, where they would be sealed away and confined so as not to harm anyone. Sometime later, I heard of other Jiangshi attacking the region, and that was when I made the decision to become a priest, not to mention offering comfort to those in need. living in both worlds, in the duality of the world, life and death, yin and yang, day and night. Jiangshi is a small but welcoming place. Many people had arrived because of the train. The Crowley family has arrived some time ago. Back in my grandparents' time, Mr. Crowley worked very hard until he was finally able to open the hotel. I remember how it all began. As I recall, they bought 2 acres to turn into a farm and build a clay brick house for himself and his family. But despite the hardships, he found a way to get by. Tightened his belt, he finally obtained a license in 1878 to build a hotel. The very hotel at the railroad station, right behind it. With the station, his hotel, and a store, the rest of us were the local residents. Quiet, lively, and simple. That was the daily life. With the train, more people began to arrive, and the hotel was built. The Crowleys demolished their house and rebuilt it in brick. They gave it a beautiful and elegant facade, every bit as impressive as the homes of the wealthy in the big cities, at least in my opinion and from what I can imagine. When the Monte Cristo Homestead was finally completed, Christopher Crowley became the most beloved man on all of Jiangshi, as his acts of kindness towards the less fortunate, the community, and anyone in need of his generosity made his feat possible. However, little by little, rumors began to spread, and guests, tourists, and merchants selling farm products stayed there. Juni prospered thanks to him, but its darker side emerged as the years went by. The deaths of some family members and some of the servants cast a shadow, a very ominous one, over everything the Crowleys had built. Over everything the Crowleys had built and done to help the town up to that point. According to the rumors, the Crowleys had 2 sides. One that was kind and charitable toward the community, guests, and locals, but with the servants, they were completely different. They were there was said, but with the servants, they were a completely different story. They were said to be more than just strict. They ran the state with an iron fist. There were even rumors of beatings and abuse, until one of those rumors began to seem like reality when there was talk of a servant who died in a fire. The Crowley family claimed it was an accident in which young servant went up in flames because his straw bed caught fire. Other rumors claim that the master did not like laziness, and since the servant was feeling illness to avoid working and to prevent him from lazing around in bed, he set some straw on fire to make him get up. When the servant couldn't rise, he burned alive, suffering until there was barely anything left of him. By 1910, Christopher Crowley had passed away, and Elizabeth, his wife, withdrew almost completely into the state, leaving the property only a handful of times, fewer than one could count on one hand. She took a room and furnished it with just a table and a chair, turning it into her own chapel, where she had only a lamp and her Bible. Even with their prayers, it was well known among various guests and merchants staying at the hotel that footsteps could be heard. There were even reports of screaming of pain coming from the servants' quarters when it was empty. 7 years later, one of the Crowley's granddaughters, Ethel, died after accidentally falling downstairs. Her nanny claimed it wasn't her, but that an invisible force had pushed her, but no one believed her. It is said that blaming everything that happened in that house and the loss of her husband, Elizabeth finds loneliness in prayer. Or rather, she found it as recently as last year, writing about her mysterious life, or more than 20 years without Christopher, waiting to join him. When I got married, I left uni. Every time I come back, I've had to stay in this place, watching shadows from the windows every night. I just saw a figure, a man, wearing a hat and very tall. Who could be? I'm scared. I must retire to my room. It's time to go. Wait, wait.